Hi, welcome back to Caterpillar Summer as we read chapters 26 through 28. The next day, Cat was supposed to ride bikes with Harriet, but Chicken was upset. "Not again," he said. "You always leave. I thought we were going to play sharks or read together." A cereal flake stuck to his cheek. Cat peeled it off. Chicken pushed her hand away. "You never play with me anymore." "Not true," she answered. "It's not a true fact," he said seriously, "but it's a true feeling." "Oh, Chicken." She hated to see him sad. There was a time that his words would have been enough to make her cancel her plans. Being a good sister was important, but sometimes being a good friend was important too. She gave him a little hug. "When I get back, we'll read our book." When they first came to the island, Chicken chose a dog-eared copy of Where the Red Fern Grows by Wilson Rawls. Cat had been unsure, but once they started reading, they fell into the story of Billy and his dogs. Chicken loved to whoop during the hunting scenes, just like Billy. He looked at her like he didn't believe her. "Promise?" She squeezed him up in a hug. "I triple promise as soon as I get back." He made her promise until she had both quadruple promised and crossed her heart. Downstairs, Harriet was waiting. "Ready?" Harriet asked. Cat nodded. Harriet tore down the road, and Cat pedaled hard to keep up. The sun shone on the water's curled waves. Cat thought back to the beginning of summer when she'd been afraid to leave Chicken. It seemed like a long time ago. They passed the pier, and Cat checked for John Harvey. He wasn't there, which was good. The less she saw him, the better. Past the pier, the path widened, and there was enough room to ride next to each other. Harriet slowed until Cat caught up. Cat hadn't realized the island was so long. The fanciest houses, like Macon and Lolli's, were right on the ocean close to town. Smaller houses like Harriet's were inland. But this part of the island was different. They rode past a swampy area. Harriet said it was too wet to build on. When houses started again, they were spaced far apart. Some were neat and tidy, and others looked abandoned, with boarded windows and tall weeds growing. They turned sharply on a narrow street, and in the distance a mountain jutted 2 stories in the air. As they rode, Cat got a closer look. It wasn't a real mountain, but had been painted to look like one. She pointed. "What is that?" Harry grinned. She pointed. "What is that?" Harry grinned. "That's where we're heading." "Mini golf?" Cat's pedaling slowed. "Mini golf? The course John Harvey's family owned?" "Don't worry, it's my treat," said Harriet. "My mom gave me money." Cat shook her head. It wasn't the money. She was still sort of how she felt about what happened at the parade. "Does John Harvey work there?" "Yeah," said Harriet. "But the course is fun. He won't bother paying customers." Cat was unsure. They pulled up to a chain-link fence. She looked for a sign of John Harvey. Harriet hopped off her bike. "Are you coming or not?" "Definitely," said Cat. She leaned her bike against the fence. She had a better view of the fake mountain, which actually appeared to be a volcano. Red paint shrieked the sides, and a lazy curl of smoke ribboned from the top. The course was a colorful jumble of pirate ships, giant butterflies, neon toadstools, and even half a school bus. Cat looped her fingers through the chain-link fence. "I expected something more basic. Plastic grass, wooden ramps. Not like this." Harriet nodded. "My mom says that Mr. Dawson is a frustrated genius. He's out here all hours of the night building and painting. My dad hired him for a job once that needed some tile work. Turned out to be beautiful, but went over budget because Mr. Dawson spent 1,000,000 hours making it perfect." They walked to the register. A teenager leaned on the counter, tapping at his phone. She recognized him from the one that drove the orange pickup truck at the playground. She could just make out the writing on his fading name tag, Sutton. Kat stood there, not knowing if she should say something or wait for Sutton to notice them. He was oblivious, even from a foot away. Harriet was on low patience. She reached out and pressed on the bell hard. Sutton didn't look up from his phone. "What?" Harriet plunked money on the counter. "We want to play." Finally, Sutton looked up, shoving the phone in his pocket reluctantly. He reached under the counter to get two putters. Sutton's nose was crooked, like it had been broken and healed funny, but other than that, he looked just like John Harvey. Harriet rummaged in her pockets until she found a tattered paper coupon from the Weekly Wave, she said, holding it up, "half off." Sutton studied the coupon before stuffing it in a drawer. "Old man shouldn't bother running these. We might as well open our doors for free." He slapped the golf balls on the counter. "Follow the yellow line," he said, pointing at the path. He was back to his phone immediately. "Rude," whispered Kat, after they were out of earshot. But as they rounded the corner, she gasped. There was much more to the course than what she'd seen from the fence. Bright and chaotic, each stop was themed differently. It should have clashed, but inside it was fascinating. The first hole was surrounded by half-wall tiled with mosaic ocean scene. From there, she could see the second hole, which was designed like a circus big top, and the edge of the third, which was ringed by enormous lollipops. After the first few holes, it became clear that Harriet was very good. Kat wasn't, like there was a connection loose between the brain and her hand. She wasn't worried about winning because they were having fun. She skipped around the corner, but the path was blocked with plastic netting. And even from behind, she knew that floppy blonde hair anywhere. He glanced up at Kat, his eyes narrowing when he recognized her. "John Harvey," said Kat. "What are you doing?" "What does it look like?" he asked. "Fixing the path." Harriet leaned forward for a closer look. "Are you old enough to do that?" "Guess so," said John Harvey, the corner of his mouth turned up in half a smile, but it was full of pride. "Sutton and Briggs don't have the patience, and Tanner can't stand long enough to do anything with his hands. My dad's got his other jobs today, so he told me to do this." The three of them looked at the path. His work looked tidy and even. "Anyway," he said roughly, "you have to go around or you'll mess it up." Kat made a face. He didn't need to act big because he could make a sidewalk, even if it was a good sidewalk. "Obviously," said Harriet. "No need to get bossy. We won't walk on your path." They turned their backs and continued to the pale pink igloo. When they came to the last hole, a great white shark grinned at them menacingly. "Chicken would love this," Kat said. "On your last ball, there's a prize," said Harriet. "If you get it in the shark's mouth, you get a token for a free game. See the holes lined up before the mouth? You have to hit it past." Harriet set up her ball and frowned in concentration. Finally, she swung. The ball arched over the three holes and landed perfectly. "Yes," shouted Harriet, pumping her fist. "Free game." "Good job," said Kat. Kat put down her ball. She tried to copy Harriet. She even frowned at the ball. One hard swing later, the ball bounced straight into the first hole, not anywhere near the shark's mouth. No prize for Kat. They returned their clubs at the counter, and Sutton gave Harriet her free token with a scowl. They walked to their bikes. "Close your eyes and put your hand out," said Harriet. Kat did, and Harriet pressed something into her palm, the token. When she opened her eyes, she shook her head. "No, Harriet, you should keep it. We leave Sunday, and I don't know if we'll have time to play again." Harriet grinned. "Exactly. You'll have to come visit another time so you can use your token." She ran with her bike, took a flying leap, and began to pedal. Kat put the token deep in her pocket so it wouldn't get lost. She smiled, not because of the free game waiting for her, but because Harriet would be waiting for her too. She hurried to catch up with her friend. After lunch, Kat kept her promise to read. She and Chicken escaped to her cool bedroom and made a pillow nest in the window seat. The chapters blurred into one another as they followed Billy and the dogs deep in the Ozarks on cold winter nights. Chicken pressed so close she could feel his breath on her arm. Cat? Yes? Will this book have a sad ending? Cat stopped reading and looked at him. Maybe. Some books have sad endings. Caterpillar and Chicken books have happy endings, he said. I like those better. They don't have sad endings, but they have sad parts, said Cat, thinking of the drawings of the book Chicken that showed him bursting into tears or erupting in anger. If she stopped the book at the sad part, there wouldn't be much of a story, so she kept going. Chicken's eyes lit up like he thought of something. Wait here, he exclaimed, padding out of the room. When he returned, he carried the big blue book. Together they turned the pages of their family. There was no need to talk because they knew what the story by heart. A few snapshots of Mama and Daddy in college, friends first before they fell in love. Chicken stared at the photos, finally placing his fingers on one of Daddy's grinning at Mom on their wedding day. They stood on the courthouse steps with friends, Mom in a simple yellow dress instead of a fancy white one. He looked up. Bailey is lucky, said Chicken. He lives on a farm with 2 dogs. He has a dad and a grandpa. Cat smiled. And don't forget, a whole house full of sisters. I know you wouldn't want that. She waited for him to laugh, but he was serious. He glanced at the picture of Dad again. What was he like? Was he like Billy's dad, he asked. His sweet voice made Cat's insides fold like origami. Chicken had been too little to make her own memories with Daddy. To make his own memories with Daddy, she let him borrow hers. He never would have hurt a raccoon, but he liked to build things and he worked hard like Billy's dad. Chicken nodded. He turned the pages past their parents' cross-country drive and their picture next to the world's largest ball of twine, past baby Cat, past the pictures of her and Rishi as toddlers. He kept turning pages until he got to ones of him as a baby, which proved how much he looked like Chicken. But Chicken wasn't looking at himself. He was looking at Daddy, who was already thin and weak. Daddy in a hospital gown, all bones. Cat wanted to make it better, but she couldn't. He got the saddest ending, said Chicken. Cat nodded. We all did. It wasn't the ending for us, said Chicken. We have lots of pages left. It was such a Chicken way of looking at it that Cat smiled. You're right. We keep going. Chicken frowned. Why aren't Megan and Lily in our book? We only just met them, said Cat. Oh, right. Chicken looked across the album at her. They were quiet for a moment, looking at pictures. Caterpillar, he said seriously, I would be sad if you weren't in my book. She smiled. Don't be ridiculous. I'll always be in your book. He pushed his head against hers. Promise? She squeezed him close. Promise. Chapter 27. Cat's tablet pinged. She looked up from across the room, surprised. She hurried to the desk and touched the video chat icon. Her face's friend appeared on the screen. Rishi, said Cat. Hey, said Rishi. Finally. Finally, said Cat. How's your grandma? She's fine, said Rishi. Walking is going to be tough, but she's working hard. What is India like? Asked Cat. Hot, crowded, interesting, delicious. Cat's mouth watered, remembering the way Manjula could cook. Oh my gosh, the food. Are you eating amazing things? Rishi lowered his voice. Everyone we visit wants to feed me 5 years worth of food. Cat was jealous, imagining it. Have you had those donut hole things? Rishi's face looked dreamy. Gulab jamun? They're even better than my mom's. Cat laughed. Lucky. It's been a great trip, said Rishi. I'm glad we're here. I'm sorry we didn't get to see you. I know what you mean. I had a good time too. How's Chicken doing? Rishi asked. He's doing great, said Cat. He loves hanging out with Lolli. And guess what? I've learned to fish. I'm in a contest next weekend. Now I'm jealous, said Rishi. Is there a prize? Cash and a trophy, said Cat. Oh man, said Rishi. You know, if you win, you could buy a plane ticket to Atlanta for later this summer. Cat didn't want him to get his hopes up. I probably won't win. The same kid wins every year. She thought of John Harvey's sneering face inside. He may be an awful person, but she had to admit it. He was good at fishing. Don't be sad, said Rishi. Even if you don't win, we'll see each other sometime soon. Rishi told Cat stories about incredible street food in Bangalore and all his little cousins. Cat told him about Harriet ghost crabbing and what it was like to know Megan and Lily after all this time. As they said goodbye, Cat was beaming. Sometimes sharing with Rishi made things feel more real, and her time in North Carolina was definitely something she wanted to be real. She wanted to keep it with her forever. Tune in next time.